Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben, and today we're going to be diving into a pretty hot topic right now, which is property and real estate, right? So I've got a really special guest with me on today. So Dave, he's a real estate agent, is a close friend of mine. I've been interacting with him in the past. And Dave, you want to give an introduction in terms of where you're working right now, and I guess your age as well. You're young, right?
Sure. I'm 24 years of age. I'm working with McGrath Bankstown at the moment. So it's a very boutique but very large company. And I'm working in obviously one of the franchise companies there. Been doing it for the past 7 years now as a sales agent. Started off doing other things, but have progressed to become a sales agent eventually.
Yeah, wow, that's impressive. 7 years and you're 24 now. So you started really early.
I started, straight out of high school pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's impressive. And I guess for everyone out there, because I know a bit more about the real estate and there's different roles and sort of positions within the agencies, right? So are you able to give sort of a brief introduction in terms of, there's sales, there's admins, or there's other things, right? Are you able to break that down for us so we know what sort of different positions there are?
Of course, yeah. So there's a couple of different roles that you could do if you were interested. There's obviously the admin or receptionist role that's more kind of greeting people and welcoming people as they come into the office. There's property management. So they're all about, finding tenants and then liaising with tenants, dealing with landlords, helping them solve any repairs that they may come across, having a relationship with tradies and anybody that can help make it as smooth as possible for the tenant. And then there's a sales role, which is more buying, selling real estate. So helping people transition in different parts of their lives. And that's pretty much the different aspects of real estate.
Awesome. And did you ever transition through all those roles, or were you straight away into sales?
Yeah. So when I originally started, I looked quite young. So nobody wanted me to work as a sales agent or sales associate. So I thought...
You still look young now, by the way.
Will do. But back then I looked even younger. So I had to find a role that kind of would get me a step in the door that would potentially allow me to understand what a sales agent looks like, what their future looks like, but also get into real estate, get into a company. So I found a branch for a good company that had just pretty much started off, and they needed somebody to do all the things that people pretty much didn't want to do. So, things like sitting in the office and greeting people as they come through the door, or picking up keys, printing things out and having them ready for the sales agents or property managers, and doing those inspections. But even at the inspections, it wouldn't be very hands-on. It'd pretty much be locking the door, opening the door, turning the lights on, and all the basic things until you kind of learned and understood from the start.
I guess how long did that sort of take in terms of you doing that until you becoming a sales agent? Well,
for me, I joined obviously a new company. So for me at that point in time, it was also about the business growing, not only me. Mm-hmm. So I grew as a business grew, and it was a natural progression that way. So initially it took about 6 months, 7 months for the business to really start to grow, working under somebody that was experienced, knew what they were doing, moved the business a lot quicker than how some businesses, the time that they take to grow. So I think I was lucky in that aspect to find somebody that I was under good supervision under, but also he taught me kind of everything from the basics. But I also got a close opportunity working just the two of us in one office to see what he does at a high-end level and understand the role better.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, it's like you mentioned, right? Like you're pretty lucky position to be in, to be able to grow with the whole company, and then you learn from them really closely. Like I've always found that if you work with a smaller team, you learn so much more, right? And then it goes back to start, like you were saying, you started obviously right out of high school, right? So in terms of education or background or any certification that you needed to get, right? I guess, what was that sort of background for you?
So I always knew I wanted to get into real estate, but being from an Asian background and a family that, was a lot more based upon education as opposed to a diploma or certificate, they did insist that I finished a degree. So alongside full-time work in real estate, I did a bachelor's in business administration at Macquarie University. So I took it slow. I did it part-time, but I did end up finishing that eventually over 5 years instead of the 3 years that it would have taken had I done it full time. From an educational point of view, I think you've got to make sure that you do a certificate 4 in property services. You could do that at TAFE. It's much easier now. You can even do it online and take your time to do it. So even though it takes you probably about 6 months to complete, you've got a whole 18 months, 24 months sometimes, depending on the institution, to complete that.
Yeah, it seems crazy now that you can just do that online and just get certified, right?
Yeah, well, it's much easier because you can pretty much choose your own schedule. So you might be working, you might have other education that you're doing alongside it, but you can work around it. I think the bad part of it is when you're sitting behind a computer screen, it's very easy to research and you may not understand a lot of the content. And, in real estate, it's very regulated. So you do something wrong, you're liable at the end of the day. So you got to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you got to really know the content, right? So you're saying you still went to university, and I know the feeling of, the education is really important. So having that background, do you honestly think that was sort of relevant to your career though? Because you did pick sort of business and admin, which is like somewhat similar because you want to know about how a business operates and, cash flows and stuff. But do you reckon that was sort of relevant to achieve your goal into becoming a real estate agent or not really?
No, I mean, it's definitely not a requirement. You don't need a business degree to become a real estate agent. I mean, a real estate coach openly says that, you need half a brain to become a real estate agent. It's not that hard. So definitely wasn't something that I had to do to get into real estate, but it was something that I did just potentially as a backup. I obviously, before joining, didn't know what it was going to be like. Saw and heard a lot of things, but until you go into it and do it for yourself, you don't really know.
Yeah, the first-hand experience is always best, right? So now we're moving to the part, right? So if I, for example, I'm interested in becoming a real estate agent or in sales specifically, right? So your role, and I'm just like, I don't know, I don't really know what I would be doing in that role. Are you able to break that down for us in terms of what's a day in the life of David Sharma, right? So what does he do every single day, or as it changes, what's the general thing that you do?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like about real estate is there's different things that you can do each day, and a lot of it is to work with buyers and sellers. But behind the scenes, you've obviously got to generate an opportunity to work with buyers and sellers. So when you start the morning, you do 3 45-minute call sessions generally. So we aim to make about 120 phone calls if we can.
Wow.
We expect that, one in 3 answers the phone and we get an opportunity to speak to them. So it's about creating opportunity. So that's one way we do it. The other way is door knocking. We try and do that 2 to 4 hours a week, excluding Saturday. So on Saturday, we're pretty busy doing open for inspections, and that can go from morning to very late in the afternoon. But during the week, that's a lot of the work that we're doing. Also having buyer inspections. So if there's buyers that can't make the time to come out and have a look at a property on a weekend, we try and schedule something in during the week because we want to be available for them to come and have a look at a property we're trying to sell. And most importantly, after you're trying to create all those opportunities, you will get the more opportunities you try and create, you'll get a few in return. But having market appraisals and actually going out and helping somebody to understand what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in their area, or what's happening with the economy and how it could impact real estate in the future. I mean, no one has a real crystal idea, but we do have certain things that may play a part in what happens in real estate. So we try and help them understand the flow and the progression.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I actually didn't know about that. So that's actually new news to me. I knew you sort of had to, you call people, you check up on them and you try to create opportunities, but I didn't know you actually did the physical door knocking as well, which is quite surprising for me.
A lot of it actually. Because on the phone, sometimes we don't have everybody's data. So we don't know if there's one street that we're trying to speak to everybody on, we may have, 20% of their phone numbers. Sometimes phone numbers change, they become disconnected, or they just don't have that phone number. So you've got to physically actually go out there, but also showing your face and getting, they don't know who's on the phone, but when you're in front of them, they get to know who you are, and it builds more trust that way.
My next question was going to be about tips for someone being a real estate agent wanting to get in this role. I guess one of it would be being able to deal with rejections, right? I mean, probably you were saying you make 120 calls. Some of them, like you were saying, 1 in 3 maybe at best would be an opportunity, but there's going to be a lot of people saying, "Nah, not looking forward to it." Perspective of myself again, if I want to get into this role, what's sort of a tip that you'd give someone who wants to join, other than like, the requirement of you need that certificate, right?
Well, obviously having that certificate is one of the main things, but apart from that, I think working under somebody that's been doing it for a long period of time that can really mentor and guide you the right way. I think if you're going to work for somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, you're going to, a lot of their practices and a lot of the way that they deal with other people, you're going to develop, and you're going to become, you can't be building on bad habits. So it's important you work for somebody that can train you and guide you correctly, and is also willing to support you, because it's a very busy industry. And a lot of the time, if they're going to be out on the road and focusing on obviously trying to build their business, but they're not able to spend time, or they're not giving you an opportunity to see exactly what they do to build their business, you're probably not going to learn as much. But the other thing for me, I think, is like what I did. If you can't secure a sales job, or you don't know what a sales job entails day to day, and you want to kind of get an idea without actually jumping into it, maybe starting off as an admin or a reception role, or even as a property manager. With property management, I think it's very good foundation, because you get to, a lot of sales is about trying to keep people happy, dealing with the client, and trying to make sure a deal goes ahead. But one of the best ways you can make those deals go ahead is if you have knowledge. You need to be able to give somebody knowledge and give them comfort that whatever they're buying the right thing. And yes, with rules, regulations, with strategies, a lot of sales agents can guide them. But I think with property managers, the benefits they have is they get to learn about the actual house itself. So, structures, or they may be able to give realistic quotations and suggest certain things may be a major issue, certain things may be a minor issue, but trying to identify which one's a major, which one's a minor. Certainly as a property manager, you'll get to learn that very well.
Awesome. And like you were saying, right? So you were saying knowledge is pretty important when you're trying to, create those opportunities or sales, right? So do you spend a lot of time researching the market? Then is that a part of your job, or is that more of a personal investment?
Look, it's a mixture of both. I think you've got to be investing the time into knowledge and training yourself, and trying to understand the market and what's happening in real estate, because if you can't relay that information to someone that's looking at selling their home, you're not really adding much value to them. And you've got to show them that, one, that you know what you're doing, but also, there might be tips and tricks or certain things that they can do to call it, to increase the saleability of their home, competition that they have on the market while they're trying to sell their property, or even the current market condition. You can't say to everybody that it is the right time for them to sell. For some people, it may suit them. A lot of people are buying and selling in the same market. If they sell at a good price, they're buying at a good price. But if they sell at a lower price, they're buying at a good price. So it doesn't matter as much for them. But there could be some people that, are trying to pick a market where they could pocket money or reduce debt. And for those clients, if some people can't afford to hold on to their home, and you want to give them the right strategy and process and explain the best way forward for them. But for the people that can afford to hold on, you may say to them, look, now's probably not the best time. And if you can hold on to your property for a couple more years, call it an investment that's paying them very good rental return, they may be better off at holding onto the property for a period of time.
Yeah, it makes sense. And like, I'll be honest, right? Like, I've spoken to a whole bunch of other agents when you go into inspections and stuff, and some of them can't even tell me just simple information about the property. And then that just goes to tell, okay, this agent is probably not well vested into this property, cares about other things. And I don't know, like you were saying, right? Like, you have sales tactics and stuff. I don't know if that becomes a sales tactic that they do, which gets me to call them back and stuff. I don't know if there's misconceptions behind this role, right, of a real estate agent, right? So one of my, I guess, if I could give you an example of a misconception, is that real estate agents get first dibs on the market, and they get to purchase the property before it even goes onto the market, right? Like, does that actually happen, or is there like some sort of contract or some law in between going, you buy it at the same time as everyone else when they find out about it?
Yeah, look, it does come down to the owner and whether they're happy to do that. A lot of the time, they're generally not, because they know that the price that we're indicating to them, it could be a conflict of interest. And, we obviously have a very good understanding of the market. And if we were a buyer any day of the week, we would be looking at securing the best possible deal. So what's to stop us when we're dealing directly with them? But in saying that, I haven't seen it happen very often either. So we've done quite a lot of deals. We've got a lot of people in our friendship circle or network that work in real estate, and it's very rare that we hear them buy directly from the owner. A lot of the time it's from another agent. So it is quite unheard of.
Are there any other sort of things that, or misconceptions that you think that people think of an agent, right? Like for example, I didn't know that you made so many calls. I just know that, you have to create opportunities. I didn't know how you did and all that. But some people could think that, a real estate sales agent, so it's a simple job. I just have to rock up, open the door, let people in, and then close the door, and then move on to the next place. Is there anything else that's probably like, no, we do a lot more work in the background?
Yeah, I mean, apart from trying to create those opportunities, which the more time you spend on trying to create those opportunities, the more that you get out of it. So I think the misconception there would be that you've actually got to invest that time into not only trying to create those opportunities, but to understand how to create those opportunities, you've got to invest in training as well. So we try and do that 2 times a week, but also going out with other people in your team, and everybody does things differently. So trying to understand different ways to do things and putting them together and making it your own. But another misconception is that, when a deal happens, it's not always a happy ending for everybody. Transition, and sometimes you're helping families that are broken apart, people that are going through health issues, people that, can't afford to financially hold on to their home. So for those people that we're trying to assist, we're trying to do everything we can. It's not always the outcome that they want. I mean, nobody wanted to be put in that situation, but unfortunately for things out of their control, they're in that situation, but we're here to help them transition. So not every sale is, a great sale, but I suppose the benefits are that there is potential to earn whatever time you put in. So if you put in the time and create the opportunities, you'll get a return. But if you don't, and you're just coming into the office and not trying to create those opportunities, you're probably financially better off looking at another industry or working a corporate or any other type of job where it's less sales focused, I suppose.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I guess, that is something that, we don't think about, that agents actually have to do with the goods and the bads, right? Of certain people selling the house. Like, it's not everyone wants to sell the house because, okay, I'm upgrading from the house, right? It could be because they have to downgrade or something else. So having, I guess, the customers in your best interest is probably what every agent has to portray, I guess, to all the customers. I guess this is not so much a controversial question, but a lot of times when we jump into, or we decide to move into a different role, we always consider, okay, will it be relevant in the next 5-10 years, etc. Right? So I know property market, real estate is not going to go away anytime soon, but have you noticed your role changing in the past 2 years ever since COVID, or do you think it would change in the future when it comes to responsibilities and tasks?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. And from what I know of real estate and how obviously directors that I've worked with who have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years longer than I have, the way that they were traditionally doing things, they've shown us. So before, obviously, if there was somebody manually kind of printing things, replying to each inquiry individually, for example, I know before, if somebody inquires through a website such as realestate.com or domain.com, we'd have to copy and paste a template and change the details to answer their questions. But we already know what a lot of the questions are that buyers ask, and it's mainly things like price or inspection times or contracts of sale. So there's been kind of an automation of that. So there's a system that we now have, and not everybody is using it, but we are seeing a progression in it where you literally inquire about a property, you get a message that has all the strata rates, water rates, council rates, if it's a strata titled property, or the water and council if it's just a Torrens titled home. You get your price guide, you get the next inspection date, you get a link to download a copy of the contract of sale if that's what you need. So all those things that potentially a buyer may ask when inquiring about a property is already automatically sent to them. But then again, if you're going to a day before the inspection, you get an automatic reminder. So a lot of agents were, reminding buyers that, hey, we've got this open for inspection at this time tomorrow, please don't forget, or look forward to seeing you there. But that's again automated. And one thing that's changing, and it's probably started to change a lot more throughout COVID, is the paperwork side of things. So when you're purchasing a property and exchanging a contract of sale, a lot of it can be done digitally. You can finish an auction or a sale, and you may need to go to initially the vendor's home and then go to the buyer's home to get the signature. But now you can just sit in your office and send an email with a link to sign to the vendor and to the purchaser, and it's all done online. So that's definitely changed. I think it's becoming a lot more automated a lot of the systems and processes, but I think from a negotiation point of view and to show property, we've still got to be there physically.
Yeah, I was going to say that human interaction part and calling and asking for opportunity stuff is going to stay, right? Like this, if artificial intelligence or some machine can do it for us, honestly, would be very, very futuristic by then.
I agree.
Yeah. I noticed you're wearing a suit and like, you know, you're looking really fresh and cleaned up. Is that sort of a prerequisite when it comes to this? Or is it more for yourself going, if I look more presentable, it's more trustworthy and all that?
Look, I think you've got to be presentable because there's somebody that doesn't know you that's looking at you. For them, you want to make sure that you display a good image of yourself, but also of the brand. Working for a large company and you're dealing with a lot of potential buyers and a lot of potential sellers, you don't want to be misleading. It's like working in any other job where people that are dressed well or look very well, they're generally higher up the hierarchy most of the time, and they're providing that level of service.
Yeah, it's sad but true, right? It's people making, you know, based on your first impression of someone's appearance, right? And unfortunately, like you mentioned, right? Like you were saying, I looked too young to be in sales at the really beginning, right? Like again, people just judging based off it. I honestly hope that social barrier and that social sort of limitations does break soon. And as we see people working from home, like I'm wearing like a t-shirt when I used to wear a suit, right, and a tie and everything. But yeah, I guess that's sort of slowly changing, I guess, but only different in certain industries, right? Yeah, look, I want to say thank you so much for your time, Dave. Like, it's been amazing to be able to talk to you. I've been able to get crazy insights from you as well in terms of what, you know, the different roles are and what you actually do as well. You know, for everyone who's watching, make sure you subscribe if you want to hear about other different roles, and especially if you have questions for David as well, feel free to put in the comments down below, like the video, so make sure you get notifications. And Dave, you want to give everyone a bit of a spiel in terms of if they want to find you or how to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a lot of people that are looking at buying and selling, mostly all in Greater Sydney. So if you are ever looking to do anything in real estate, whether it be buying, selling, or renting, feel free to give me a call.
All right, everyone, guys, David has been amazing. I've been talking to him and inspecting different properties, and he's been extremely trustworthy. He's very transparent. He'll give you the truth when it comes to a property, and especially if you're inspecting and buying, and also if you're selling. So guys, make sure you reach out to David. He's been amazing so far. And yeah, thanks so much, Dave. And I hope we speak soon.